All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan, the ex-Muslim atheist, and welcome to another episode of Sultan's House of Sin. Deborah, hi.
Hey, how are you?
How you doing? Very good. How are you? Your
Good.
video, I think your excerpt has just been uploaded. I think it's going to go up in about 3 hours.
Oh, nice.
We covered most of it. So I think we didn't talk about your journey now. Once that's happened, how are you doing now? How's your life now? You moved on. You think that it's still hard to think about what your journey was?
Yeah, no, I'm only just really starting to piece it together. I'm trying to write a book and just starting this whole ex-Muslim thing. It's all new to me. And I think my voice is important because I come from the West and I grew up here. And then I put myself in like a full Islamic situation so I can see what both sides were like. Just all your talk about how women are treated in like Pakistan, I guess these are the laws that are going on. Yeah. I think you can't enforce these laws when the whole government is pretty much Muslim or Islamic, basically, right? Because Islam views women as possessions, as like property that needs to be controlled. And it's just, you can't, even you see how blasphemy laws aren't really implemented, but the people rise up and take care of things because they all follow that. So I find as long as Islam is being implemented somewhat, women are just never going to have full rights, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing with countries like Pakistan. That's why I say they're a little bit more complex than that, because in Iran, you've had Shia version of Islam implemented at the state level. And then you have Saudi Arabia, Wahhabi version of Islam implemented at the state level. But countries like Pakistan are confused. They have some laws that are, most of the laws are actually inspired by Anglo-Saxon laws because we had British there in the Indian subcontinent. For rape, for adultery, there's no stoning. There's never been any stoning apart from very small. Actually, no, stoning was still never implemented, but lashes were for a couple of years when General Zia was there, and then when Benazir Bhutto came back, she went back to original ones as well, but she couldn't fully remove those laws either for adultery and all these kind of moral crimes, so to speak. So you have sentencing for it. So 2 years in prison, 3 years in prison, whatever. But so a lot of these laws are actually they're still inspired by Anglo-Saxon principle. On the other hand, this women rights bill that actually came out in 2006 under another military dictator, General Zia, because military, as dictatorial as they have been, whereas they are, they still can somehow control these masses, the clerics that I showed you. The biggest challenge Pakistan faces, it's otherwise, as I said, the government itself is not a theocracy. It's never been. But as you said, people rise up and people do come up. And when they discuss this, when they put in domestic violence bill, these clerics were actually literally talking on TV that, but Islam allows wife beating. They weren't even saying that. What they were saying that, Islam says that domestic matters should be handled domestically. Police should never get involved in that. So if a husband and wife are fighting, let them do. But again, obviously, this is now they can't hide the fact that people like us openly say, well, you know why they're saying it? It's saying because women can be beaten up.
Right.
So Pakistan is actually such a confused nation. The majority of the middle class people, when I started my activism, I knew, even though when I had become an atheist, there was so much other nitty-gritty that I didn't actually understand about Islam. So you probably, in your 1 or 2 years, you probably would have studied everything. But so when I for example, sex slavery was one topic that I just could not, and for the life of me, I still can't get my head around. That how can a religion that is so we respect women and, sex is bad and you should only have it with your wife and all that. And then on the other hand, just grab someone, murder the husband, and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
I just could not get my head around, and I knew that most of Pakistanis don't know this, and that was true. Still, most people who find out about us for the first time, the moment we throw out sex slavery in front of them, they're like, "Whoa, wait, that's not true." You know.
Yeah.
So same with so when domestic violence, marital rape, these kind of things are totally unknown, and they just use their own common sense. Yeah, if a wife says no, I don't want to have sex with you. Okay, a decent Pakistani would think that, but what they don't know is that it actually has, these problems are deeply rooted in the religion that
100%.
they thought was the perfect religion.
Yeah, exactly. If you believe that everything is the truth, then you think that the creator will tell you what's best for you, so you follow it. I can't see how outside laws would affect a marriage where stuff like that is being implemented, because if there's marital rape being implemented, she's also submitting to that law. Like for myself, I agreed to it. I wasn't maritally raped, but I 100% agreed to it, and we even discussed it. And he even hypothetically asked me, he was like, what would you do if I wanted to and you didn't want to? And I was like, I didn't even know what to say. It was just like, well, I don't know. I didn't even know how to answer that, but it was like something that was on the table and we had to agree to it. It was just like really messed up.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely believe that it's got more to do with your total upbringing in that sense. Well, I was raised as a Muslim predominantly by my mother, and who obviously, as a woman, she obviously had her own values, and obviously she never taught me that how you should treat your future wife or whatnot. We never spoke about it, but we kind of knew what would be a decent thing to do. But again, like when I met my partner, I mean, these things have never happened. Like when your partner says, "Hey, get away from me," and you're like, "Okay, screw you too."
Why would you want to do something with somebody that doesn't want to? That's what blows me away.
I mean, see, this is the thing. I don't get it, but but then I'm thinking, what I was thinking, that why then those husbands do that? It has to do with the possession factor. That how dare you? I mean, I'm like. I often say that, husband and wife are usually, they're like the friends, like if someone says, "Screw you, get out of my face," and then you say, "Okay, you get out of my face," like it becomes very childish. Then it just doesn't make any sense that you go, "Okay, I'm going to rape you." It just doesn't make any sense to me.
You sit down and you look at what are the husband's rights in Islam and what are the wife's rights in Islam. And if you sit there and study that, especially as a convert, we don't even have the culture to go back to. We have to look at the texts. We sit there and read all the texts. And then we were we're separating all the different Muslims we've met from all the different countries of the world. And we can literally separate what is culture and what is Islam, because we can see the differences between all of them. So we're just looking at the pure, what's the common denominator and what's the real text. So we're sitting there, okay, these are the husband's rights. It's like a large list. And what are the wife's rights? And he buys you when you get married, you name your price. I mean, myself and a lot of other convert women that I knew, we would ask for a Quran because somehow that was the best thing to ask for, and you get the most blessing. So he bought me for a Quran, and now he owned me and had to tell me, and I had to obey everything. If he said you are not allowed to leave the house, I was having an argument about taking the garbage out, and then he didn't, and I was like, fine, and I went to go do it, and he's like, no, I forbid you. So I had to stop, and I had to sit there and not do it. So just stuff like that.
Were you ever assaulted though?
No, he never physically. It was all just mental. When you sit there, when you really submit, Islam is submission. You submit to, and you fully adhere to everything. You think that God knows what's best, and you just follow it.
This is why I think you probably would have understood that, because I was struggling how to explain that to the Western audience, that it says in them are women limiting their glances. I mean, what does it even make? Limiting their glances? What does that even mean? It actually means, very submitting women or huris. They would just look down. They wouldn't even look up to you. They wouldn't look up at you. They would never talk back at you. That's the
Oh my God.
And again, because this is such a desirable trait in a woman,
Yeah.
like just do as
Just
I say.
shut up and be naked and gorgeous. That's it.
And don't talk back. Yeah, well, yeah, shut
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's a very bizarre ideology, and I think people should. What worries me again?
You have to look at what Islam says from the core, because everything comes out of that. No matter how people interpret it from wherever or whenever, it all comes back to that, and it all stems from that. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, but what do you think that why it turns out to be such? I mean, we know the huge percentage. If I had to put a percentage, I'd say 99.9% of the people are Muslims just because they're born in Muslim family, and then there are a very small percentage that actually convert. What do you think? Those who do convert, why do you think that they find it so so charismatic enough that they say that, okay, I'm gonna get into it? I mean, for me, I think even when we look at the percentages of converts as well, we look at most are white women. And they just happen to fall in love with a Muslim guy, and that's what I think. Well, what are your thoughts? So why do people are so attracted to it?
Usually starts by meeting somebody. It's not always just one guy. Sometimes you just meet a group of Muslims and you hang out with them. But I find for here, like the Western women that I've met, because most of us come from Christian backgrounds, the appeal of Islam is the amount of similarities, and because Christianity is a lot more vague in so many aspects, the appeal with Islam for myself and people I know is that everything's very clearly cut out, and you don't have to, wonder if you're doing the right thing. So you get caught up in that, like, wow, every action is like detailed in how to do it properly to please God. So then you get caught up in the daily rituals, and that's where you get really just stuck in that one mindset, and you can't think critically anymore. I mean, after 12 years, and I was in a women's shelter, people were telling me over and over, like, Debbie, you can make a decision for yourself. And I didn't even realize, I'm like, I have not made a decision for myself for 12 years. It was all just, everything was referred to Islam. So it was just a bizarre thing that happened that I didn't even realize.
With some of the converts that I've spoken with, they say that, yes, some of the men converts that I've spoken with, who are actually ex-Muslims now, and obviously I speak with them, and there's some of them that support me on my Patreon. Because first someone I look at is like a white dude is supporting me. Why? And then I find out, he was a Muslim for like a couple of years. Technically, he's an ex-Muslim too now. But some of the men that I've spoken with, there was one case that I remember. He also fell in love with a Muslim girl, and then he had to convert. But then he found the real Islam. But the other men, mostly, there's not the pressure, because men, for some reason, like they would just like screw it. But they said that when Christianity it doesn't give you a clear sense of direction, whereas in Islam it seems like it does. But here's a catch, which I think they either find out later on or they just don't see it at all. Is that Islam is just as pathetic as Christianity in terms of clarity as well. They just found Islam to be clear because they just hung out with one group of people and they had their interpretation ready. And they said, that's what
100%. Yep.
That's what the real Islam is. And if it's Hizb ut-Tahrir, okay, well, this is a women's rights, men's rights, how you should speak with infidels, etc. But in that process, if they actually went to someone else, they'd be like, oh, geez, man, this is as bad as Christianity. Now this group is saying totally different.
I watched myself and so many converts, you get so excited because Islam is for all of humanity, and it's like da. But then as you get to know Islam, it's like, holy, there's all these sects, there's all these schools of thought. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's just as messed up as Christianity in that way, where people are arguing about different things. So you have to like pick one path and just like go for it and just accept that is the one. Like, obviously I was with Hizb ut-Tahrir, and they claim to be the one sect that is, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil.
Right. Well, look, I definitely, like talking to you, and I think you should make some videos as well where your journey as a convert, because I think the biggest thing that we need to focus on is some other Western women who actually do convert to Islam. Just that I still remember there was this Australian woman who messaged me. She had just found me randomly, and she said, "Oh, you're always saying these things about Islam, but my boyfriend, who was also a Pakistani guy, and she was saying, oh, he didn't tell me any of this." And I was like, "No, look, it says there, black and white. Look." But she was like, "No, I don't believe you. My guy is great." She was going back to She was going to Pakistan to live there with him, and I was like, there's nothing I could do. I don't know what happened to her. She's never gotten back. But I think maybe she couldn't speak with me because obviously, they need a different perspective, a woman's perspective on that. And also, I'm thinking
I don't know. Sometimes you just can't get through to people. They almost have to experience it. But for myself, I'm just, I will want to counter that, all of the misinformation about how honored women are. I need to counter that. That's what I like. What appeals women. I mean, when I converted, people were throwing all these beautiful books at me about women in Islam, and you're just sitting there like, wow, look at how amazing women in Islam were like 2,000 years ago. Like, sure, they had rights back then compared to whatever was happening, but like,
Were you actually ever told by any of your friends, family, non-Muslim friends and family who tried to get you out of that, or said, like, you're going the wrong way? Did they actually, did any, like, one thing that should scare people the most is, Deborah, like, if you were my friend, and obviously if I would have, assuming that I knew Islam, and if I had told you that, Deborah, if you go into that, it's like a mafia. You can go in, but you can never come out. You will never be able to leave Islam. That's one thing alone that should put off a lot of people. Like, it's like saying you buy this thing and there's no warranty on that. Or like, I mean, it just
I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, were you told that?
I learned about apostasy. No, well, the only people I knew that weren't Muslim when I converted knew almost nothing about Islam. So I was just like, you guys don't know. And they'd be like telling me, like, watch that. No, Not Without My Daughter. Watch that. And I'm like, that's, just one situation. And I just kind of brushed it off. But if there had been I didn't know about ex-Muslims recently, like this movement. It's very recent. So I think it's important to just support it. And if it's just bigger. If I had known about a lot of people coming out and leaving Islam and doing what we're doing, I would have thought twice for sure.
Isn't that amazing?
I thought I was like, sorry, go ahead.
So nobody actually tried to convince you other than that, like, okay, no, sorry, you said that. But my point is, isn't that amazing that they always make you say Shahada and then learn about Islam? Is it like, is that what happened to you? Like, you just
push
said
people. Yeah. I said Shahada almost after I read a couple of websites for like an hour or two, and then I said Shahada. That was it. Like, that's how much information I had. So, and other people, they'd be like, I want to study the religion and then possibly convert. We'd be like, no, you have to like say Shahada first, and then, God will guide you the rest of the way. So like, it was like a pressuring thing for people to like push them, because what if you die tomorrow and you didn't say Shahada? Like, you'd be saying stuff like that to them. So it's like, you have to hurry and say Shahada. Like, you might die like tomorrow or in an hour. You don't know.
It's I don't know. All of that sounds so childish, Like, I mean, I was listening to this Pakistani celebrity. Somebody sent me this video. He said, "Oh, look, look at him, Harris. Would you ever be like that?" So all he said was, he was praying 5 times a day, and then he remembered Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, meaning that, oh God, show me the right path. And then one day I thought about it, oh God, show me the right path. And then all of a sudden my life was clear in front of me. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I know.
But to him, it makes so much sense.
Yep.
I'm like, what? So, I mean, I can imagine a child. I can imagine you could tell a child that, hey, if you do this, a monster is going to come at night and is going to haunt you. And the child is like, oh, okay, I won't do it again. But fully grown-up persons, like we're living, these grown-up practical people are living in this fantasy world of angels and demons and gods and heroes and what the hell?
It's that fear of eternity. It's really makes people do crazy stuff. For sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming again. And look, I mean, I would good luck with the book. I would love to read it. It'd be very exciting. And I mean, please share a copy. Let me know whenever it's out. And good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Yeah. To help me produce more videos like these, support me on Patreon or PayPal.